Hello. Today I'm going to be talking a bit about conscious co-creation. What it is exactly, how do we understand it, and how can we implement conscious creativity into our own lives. We are all creating to some degree by the actions that we partake in the world, by the things that we say, the things that we do. But often our actions in the world are not done with consciousness, they are done unconsciously. We create unconsciously. And there is a significant difference, I feel, between the creation that we do that is conscious versus the creation that we do which is unconscious. We can think of many addictions and bad habits as unconscious creations. They are things we do, behaviors which are done instinctively according to our lower appetites, our desires, whereas our conscious creations, they seem to originate from a certain higher place within us, a higher place which is seem to tap into more transcendental values, the values of truth, of love, of meaning. The values of our unconscious creations, they do not originate from such higher virtues. Take an addiction, for example, which is a behavior that we repeatedly engage in, often for the purpose of pleasure, the purpose of fulfilling some fleshly desire. This is not an activity, this is not a form of satiety that is really lasting. Everyone who has been in addiction knows that it is a transitory thing where you are forever on this treadmill of chasing pleasure. But despite the perception of movement, despite the perception of attaining and gratifying pleasure, there is no lasting satiety for the soul. Rather, you are running on a treadmill but not going anywhere. And that is very much the nature, I feel, of unconscious creation. There is no awareness of what we're doing. There is no ability to step back and take a look at our lives. We are just swept up in distraction. And if we are constantly swept up in distraction, we will never really truly live. We will never truly appreciate what is going on, the wonders of the patterns that surround us. We will just go through life asleep, which is the fate of many people who do not do the introspection that is required in order to become a conscious co-creator. There is a kind of initiation of awareness that is required in order to step into conscious creation. Now, what does conscious creation feel like? What is it? How do you know when you are in this space where you are creating consciously? I think we can bring up a related notion of the flow state to really sink our teeth into this. The flow state is very much a state that the conscious creator taps into, is a state that they yearn for. Many musicians and artists understand what a state is. It's this state of effortless engagement and concentration and being lost in the activity which one is engaged in. But this losing of oneself is not a losing of oneself into distraction, as many people do when they aimlessly scroll through their phones. It is a losing of oneself into a higher awareness. It is a kind of ego dissolution of sorts, but it's an ego dissolution that nourishes consciousness. You can nourish your consciousness and you can also degrade your consciousness based on the various activities that you are engaged in, um, various addictions, various bad habits, various um, lower activities of, say, scrolling through brain rot on Instagram or something. Anything. I mean, a lot of media really is it's not enlightening. It is, you know, noisy, sensational. It's bombards the senses. It overrides the senses. And there's a sensory attraction, which is why many people choose to indulge in, scrolling through short-term media over and over. But they're often negligent of the fact that they are turning unconsciously into a kind of a zombie, a slave to the next short-term surge of dopamine that excites their brain. But there is no humanity left in that. There's no aliveness. There's no vitality. You know, your consciousness. It can lower itself, and you can know this because you feel more animalistic, I suppose. You feel more impulsive. You feel less in control. You feel less sovereign over your consciousness. Or conversely, there is an ascension of awareness. There is an ascension of awareness into a heightened clarity with regards to the world around you and what you are doing in that world. And this heightened clarity is required in order to cultivate what I'm describing as conscious creation. In conscious creation, you are not copying, you are not regurgitating. You see, a lot of our education does not teach us to be conscious creators. It teaches us to regurgitate a textbook, to regurgitate the opinions of other people. Very rarely does it encourage you to be authentically creative and independent in your views, in your thinking, in your perspectives, because, of course, such people, such capacities of independent thought are disruptive to various social organizational structures. And that's why they are not given the space to flourish. If you wish to become a conscious creator, you cannot necessarily learn that or be given it by someone else. You have to discover it for yourself. And that is very much the nature of awakening itself. You cannot necessarily be given awakening, because awakening is not a thing that can be given to someone. It has to be seen and realized as a self-evident, directly experienced reality. When you see reality for what it is, when you're in this mode of seamless integration with the present moment or with source, God, reality, then you are in a conscious orientation where you can move, you can think with more deliberation. You can step back from your impulses. Conscious creation is very much an ability to step back from your impulses, to step back from your rigid thought patterns, your habitual thought patterns. Many people do the same thing over and over again. They work in the same way, they think in the same way, they find it very difficult to do anything else because they wish to reside in a comfortable state of mind. But in order to consciously create, you have to be willing and able and courageous enough to step outside of that zone, to really flirt with the unknown. Because it is through flirting with this unknown quality to reality, in the sense that it is forever unveiling itself into new forms through us and in front of us. We have to become receptive to the unknown if we are to become receptive to this notion of conscious co-creation. Now, to consciously create, it can be as simple as literally sitting in front of a notepad and writing whatever thoughts come up in your stream of consciousness. Conscious creation is very much a motion of tapping into the stream of awareness and seeing what arises. Any process is like that. You do not know where you are going exactly. You are there riding the wave. And when you can ride the wave in this sort of this feeling of openness, curiosity, and almost a joy about what you're doing, then you're really in it. You can't consciously create if you're in fear or anxiety, or if you're rigid, you're stiff. You have to loosen up, you know, and you have to almost, prepare your mind in order to do this. You can't just go into it just like that. It's a skill that has to be cultivated over and over, and it takes time. It takes time to be able to really take off the chains of your mind, because it is the chains of our mind. It's our habitual thought patterns, our conditioned impulses that prevent us from being truly free with what we say and what we do and what we think. Um, and the most troubling thing, of course, is that it is these chains, these invisible boxes are invisible. They're difficult to perceive. We may think that we're thinking freely whilst neglecting the fact that such thoughts are perhaps not ours. Many people suffer from this. They neglect the invisible chains. How do you perceive the invisible chains? It's a difficult question to really answer, because such chains will be different for each person. Um, you can perceive a chain as anything which is keeping you rigid and stuck and in this place of conscious inertia where you're unable to really transform. In order to change, in order to transform, you have to let go of the old. You have to let go of old patterns. But often we cling to old patterns because we don't know anything else, because there's a kind of instinctive reluctance towards the unknown. It's a fear. But fear is an emotion which impedes conscious creation. Fear has to be transcended and integrated if we are to really dissolve into the unknown, to dissolve into who we are, and to really tap into our highest potential with regards to what we are here to create. Reality is creation, and us as beings, we co-create with it. That is our nature. It is a insult to the soul to be a soul consumer. But many people are like this. They just consume and they don't create. And this leads to a total stagnation of their being, of their faculties of awareness and intelligence. And they become akin to zombies, just hungry all the time for the next media or movie or short-term content, or whatever it is. I think if you're here, you do not desire such a fate. You have that impulse within you to create and to do something worthy and meaningful, not just for other people, but for yourself, because it feels like a deep urge of you to create something interesting and fascinating and wonderful. There is a joy in creation, and there is the highest joy in conscious creation. There is a delight there to be discovered, and I hope everyone finds it. I hope you will find it. So I'll leave it at that. Goodbye.